how it's one of those stories that just came out of place.
Right.
Like, I was living in Hobart at the time. I was right near the rivulet. I was right near all the places that are in the story. And one night I just started hearing a boy on a fiddle. Or I don't know why I thought they were a boy, but I did. I just had this sense that it was a boy playing a fiddle. And yeah, I don't know that they were there in the normal sort of physical way, because I could never actually find them. I did actually look for
Yeah.
them because I heard it a few times, and it I don't know, it led me down a path which led to me writing, which sort of like, maybe it was maybe it was the daffodil time. I'm not actually sure what led me to open that ink vein to the story, but it started to come out.
Hello and welcome to the Spirit Box podcast, where we explore folklore, magic, the world of the spirits, and everything in between. Today, it is my great pleasure to welcome author and witch Lee Morgan to discuss his new book, The Rag and Bone Man, which is due out in November and is currently available for pre-order. You can find the link below in the show notes. Now, Lee's work has been a big inspiration to me, so it was a real pleasure to talk to him. And we had a rich conversation that moved between witchcraft, storytelling, and the strange Gothic landscapes of Tasmania. We talked about the genesis of The Rag and Bone Man, a project that began as a novel and that grew into a fusion of fiction, research, and a grimoire. We spoke about writing in trance-like states, about stories that come from the spirits themselves, and about the way fiction can become the proper vessel for truths that can't be held by fact. From there, we wandered into the realm of Tasmanian Gothic, its haunted histories, its spirits, its tragedies, and its place in Lee's search for a writer's voice between England, Australia, and Tasmania. In the Plus show, we explored spiritualism, witchcraft, and the strange physical manifestations of mediumship, alongside the recurring motifs that weave through Lee's body of work. Our discussion also turned to the craft of writing, the patience it requires, the toll it can take, and the gift of treating creativity as a form of spiritual inheritance. He described how the characters arrive as if alive, how he works with them as if they are alive, how stories can heal and transform, and how witchcraft itself deepens one's experience of the world. Along the way, we touched on Irish myth, storytelling traditions, the relationship between spirit and text, and the global reach of Lee's magical writing. It's a fantastic conversation and one I really enjoyed, and I think you will too. Now, if you want to hear the Plus show, the simple thing to do is to click the show notes links below and go to the link tree, and from there you can join the Patreon. There you'll get the Plus show for this episode, along with 5 years of back catalogue and all the bonus content. There's a whole other podcast from me and Tommy Kelly called Nameless. But if Patreon isn't your thing, you can always just buy the Plus show episode alone. And if that's still not your thing, but you'd like to support me and support the show, you can always pick up a copy of my book, Song of the Dark Man, Father of Witches, and in November it will also be available in Spanish. Okay, let's get on with the show. Lee Morgan, it's a huge honor to welcome you to the Spirit Box. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm good. Yeah, I've been going through a bit of a crunchy time, but I feel like I'm coming out the other end of it right now, which is great feeling to have.
Brilliant. Well, great stuff. As I said, I'm so pleased to welcome you to the show. I've been a fan of your work for a very long time, so it's really great to have you on to talk about your new work.
Thank you. I'm pretty keen to talk about this one, actually.
So let's get the show on the road. The new title. When is it coming out?
Sometime in November,
Right.
so not long
Yeah.
now at all. It's on pre-order, obviously, but yeah. It'll start actually getting to people in November.
Fantastic. And you, excuse me. In our correspondence in the run up to recording this, you mentioned that the format of the new title, the Rag and Bone Man, matches the Sounds of Infinity, and
Mm.
kind of, I wanted to kind of talk to that a bit. Is that a format that you like to explore, or is there a reason you wanted to use this again?
Yes. Well, both, really, I suppose. But initially, The Rag and Bone Man was just a novel. It was just the creative part, and I approached Crosscrow Books with it,
Mm-hmm.
and they loved it, but they said that they don't strictly do actual fiction on its own. And one of well, I think it was actually the publisher, said to me that they had loved The Sounds of Infinity and that they would like me to make it into that.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I was a bit excited because I loved writing Sounds of Infinity. It gave me a chance to use a couple of different skill sets
Mm.
at the same time. Um, but yeah, I feel like I suppose that touches on other things we might talk about later. But yeah, to me, the fiction part is really important
Mm-hmm.
for getting across the essence of magic. It's
Yeah.
got a signature to it, a creative signature that I think brings something out. But yeah, being offered that opportunity to pair it with research as well as a sort of a grimoire in the back, yeah, that really, I was quite pumped about it, and I went home and began immediately. I think I did most of it in a couple of days just with the excitement of it. I do have another publisher though that is going to put the actual fiction part out as a separate
Oh wow.
book,
Okay. Cool.
which I
Cool.
think is just good because it
Yeah.
is one of those stories that people have reacted to in a couple of different ways. And one person did say that they almost felt it didn't need the other two parts.
Right.
Most people said it does, but yeah, one person has said that so far that they thought almost it could stand alone. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, lucky you said that because it's going to as well somewhere else. So yeah, we've got everyone's permission to make that happen.
Oh, great stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
it's quite unusual for um, authors um, to be able to excel in kind of both areas. It's not a particularly common trait. I mean, certainly we mentioned Sounds of Divinity just before we hit record, and um, I gave you my fanboy praise, but speaking to that, and I've yet to read the Dragon Ball Man, but speaking to that ability to be able to write kind of academically, to be able to write fantastic fiction and have the kind of the practical grimoire in it. It's quite unusual to be so good at all elements, and it's great to hear you're getting kind of the appreciation for that.
Yes, yeah, it took a little while. You know, in the beginning, it did take me a bit to sort of, I guess, just find an audience. I guess, but I'd put it down to a bit of hyperfixation on my
Right,
behalf. Like, I think my writing is like very much uh, something that I fixate on so much that I've developed each of those characteristics over time.
right, right.
Um, I did like my Bachelor of Arts in Literature and Creative Writing,
Okay.
so there was yeah, experience of
Mm.
both
Yeah.
types of writing right from the word go.
Hmm. Yeah. And one question I've been really wanted to ask you is how much is like spirit involved in the creative aspect of your writing?
A lot, yes, quite a lot. Um, there's some things that because the entities I work with, particularly those that might class as being amongst the good neighbors and stuff like that. There's often like little prerequisites about what I can talk about and what I
Right.
can't. And there's some things that I can write fiction about that I can't write non-fiction about,
Mm.
and I don't. I could theorize why that is, but like I don't know for sure.
Right.
It's just the way that information comes through
Mm.
me, and Yeah, it's very spirit involved. It's like a bit of a trance state, I guess,
Mm,
like
mm,
the
mm.
creative stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. Um, I found in my own work when I can tell the difference, and I perhaps readers can as well, but I can tell the difference when I'm switched on and when I'm not. You know,
Mm.
when it's flowing. You know, where and you mentioned that kind of when you got the kind of the green light for this project,
Mm.
where you were like boom, and it came super quick.
Mm.
Um, there's certainly kind of a difference that I know. I noticed that there's the times when it's like, oh my god, this is so taxing. You're like you're trying to bleed into the keyboard and it's not
Yes.
happening. You know, and then the other times where it's just like
Mm.
you can't switch it off and you're just going for hours and it's flowing lovely. Um,
Mm.
does that sound familiar?
It does sound very familiar,
Mm,
particularly at this time of year because we're in daffodil season,
okay,
but also snow season, and it's this
fine,
very liminal time between winter and spring here on the mountain. And that to me is my really very inspired time
right,
where I can't
right,
switch it off. Like
right, right.
I'm
Okay, yeah,
going for it.
yeah,
Mm.
fantastic. So tell us about the Rag and Bowman, and it's set in Tasmania.
It is, yes. And that in itself sort of means something to me, because my life has been sort of lived kind of stretched between Dorset in England, where my mother comes from,
Okay,
and Australia. And we've gone back and forth a lot throughout my life. Like we've done quite a few extended visits and such things. And I've always felt kind of almost a spiritual orphan in some ways.
sure.
But I've spent a while here now, like maybe, what is it, probably 15, 16 years now in Tasmania, and or La Truita, as it's called, as well. And when you're here, it has quite a dark history, as a lot of people might know about it. But you're also steeping in what they call Tasmanian Gothic as a literary movement. There's this pre-existing, obviously, movement called that, which focuses on what you would expect, like the Gothic elements of Tasmania's history, but through literary lenses and artistic lenses and artwork and I suppose that was what was in my head when I produced this book because I wanted to sort of celebrate that heritage. And yeah, the book came about actually as part of an artwork. It was a bit of a kind of cross pollination sort of thing because there was this artwork called The People's Library, which was produced by some excellent writers called Justy Phillip and Margaret Woodward. And what they wanted was to just bring to light a lot of Tasmanian talent that people don't know about and to basically make a people's library, which you could just walk in at any time and pick up these fascinatingly color coded books. You got assigned a particular color and you were in this like little sort of row of books and people could come in and read it at their whim. And then, we each did these little presentations where we kind of did performance art
Right.
around the book. So it's been an artwork, it's become a book. And now it's coming to us from Chicago of all places.
Oh, amazing.
So yeah, it's had an interesting little history. But I think the Tasmanian Gothic thing is important to me as a witch as well, because whilst that's sort of the movement, it doesn't explicitly involve witchcraft. It is a theme that does get played with occasionally with different TV shows. The idea that there is some old witchcraft presence here in the
Right.
island, in the post-colonial phase of the island, and yeah. So yeah, it does mean something to me, I guess, that it is my first Tasmanian book.
Hmm. Fantastic.
Mm.
Fantastic. I really think that it's an underestimated um, element, I think, but perhaps for readers and less so for authors, but that the importance of place, the importance of the
Mm,
voice of a place, and how it can speak through us in stories. You know, I'm living in the UK, I guess, on and off 20 years or so now,
mm,
which feels very very weird to say, but it I certainly notice, like I hear the voice of Ireland all the time, you know,
mm,
and certainly the like the rhythms, the sing song part of language, that is more prevalent in Ireland than it is here. Say, you know, and there's wonderful voices in England. I'm just saying it's different. Um,
yes.
you know, it's interesting to hear that you have a big part of your life in Dorset and then in Australia. Do you find those voices, um, like do they struggle, or are they complementary?
I think they used to struggle.
Mhm.
Like I think when I wrote my earlier fiction, which is all set in England,
Right. Yeah.
um, there was definitely like a feeling that I was allowed to use that material at
Right.
some level.
Hmm.
And I think that that is one of the struggle aspects for me is that learning to speak for or with Tasmania is something you have to earn.
Yeah.
It's not something that just gets given to you, whereas I
Mm.
feel that where I came from was something that just got given to me.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been able to sort of, as soon as I get back to where we come from, I'm able to just drop into that place and to speak in harmony
Yeah.
with it. Whereas here, it's a much more fraught journey, but I do feel that the fraughtness of that is part of what inspires the difficulties and the pains and everything in the
Mm.
story that I've
Mm.
presented in that book.
Yeah. Yeah. I like
Mm.
that. Yeah. That, yeah, it sounds very familiar. You know, when I'm at home in the west of Ireland, like the landscape, um, I mean, it looks different. It's all those kind of things, but I certainly feel more part of it. You know,
Mm.
like that's yeah, it inhabits you as well as you inhabit it.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah, that's
yeah.
exactly what it does.
Um. So tell us a little bit about the story of the Rag and Bone Man.
Um, well, the middle chunk is well, it's set in the Victorian age, and it's really kind of hard to explain how it's one of those stories that just came out of place.
Right.
Like I was living in Hobart at the time. I was right near the rivulet. I was right near all the places that are in the story, and one night I just started hearing a boy on a fiddle, or I don't know why I thought they were a boy, but I did. I just had this sense that it was a boy playing a fiddle, and yeah, I don't know that they were there in the normal sort of physical way, because I could never actually find them. I did actually look for
Yeah.
them because I heard it a few times, and it I don't know, it led me down a path which led to me writing, which sort of like maybe it was maybe it was the daffodil time. I'm not actually sure what led me to open that ink vein to the story, but it started to come out, and yeah, it's linked to different figures that really existed in reality in some convoluted kind of way, but yeah, I in some ways, I don't want to go into too much detail about the story lest I drop spoilers,
Sure.
but I feel like it explores a kind of tender threshold in history where doors were being opened on the spirit realm, and there's a bit of discussion about mediumship and spiritualism in
Mhm.
it, and the way that that was sort of interacting with witchcraft that in the story was brought here and giving a kind of a pathway for people's bodies specifically, like to express these forces that are in some of us that need to be given expression. And there's a lot of other stuff about repression in this story. Like there's a lot of stuff about sexual and romantic repression and all of these different things that are bubbling under the surface of the story. And what I feel about it is that it gave me an opportunity to talk about, well, some of it, I suppose, is about the good folk in the sense that the main character is believed to be a changeling, which is a
Mhm.
theme I have a little bit of an interest in.
Right.
And yeah, it allows me a little window to talk about a few things that I care about, but specifically about the rise of spiritualism,
Hmm.
um, which I think is, sorry,
No
that's
worries.
irritating, and I will just turn off the sound. Um, I think it is very important to the way that occultism made its entry into Australia. And so, yeah, I've sort of unpacked a few of those topics. It's it's a very sad story, though. I should probably
Yeah.
mention. Yeah, it's just quite. It's got a melancholy to it, which you would expect with Tasmanian Gothic. And
Right. Right. Well, I look forward to picking up a copy. As I said earlier, you write fiction so well, um, and you have a very I found you have a very gothic quality in your writing anyway. You know,
Mm,
it kind of it comes off the page that there's a sense of danger, but there's beauty in it as well, which I really enjoyed in sense of affinity. So I've looked forward to this as well. Um, in terms of spiritualism, like what relationship does that have, say, in your witchcraft or in witchcraft more generally?
interesting. Yeah. Um, Nothing specific as such. But it was something to do with ectoplasm that got me
Oh, okay.
fascinated in spiritualism. It was more about the physically manifest aspect of it, where people were vomiting it and it was
Yeah.
coming out of their orifices. And
Mhm.
um, it just got me on this research pathway as well, because I was curious about why in I suppose why it needed to be so chunky and everything. Um, and that kind of thing interests me in relation to witchcraft, because I do think of witchcraft as one of the more embodied forms
Mhm.
of mystical or sorcerous experience. Like it's very fetchy, what I would call
Right.
part of the animal intelligence of the body,
Mm. Mm.
would be how I would describe that. And yeah, I kind of sensed that in spiritualism. Plus, in the very beginning, the the Fox sisters talked about Mr. Splitfoot as being the spirit that was speaking to them, and obviously that made me think of the devil and got me going on that
Mm.
pathway. And I think it's inevitable as well, because I was fortunate enough to be on the receiving end of quite a lot of superstitious material from my Dorset ancestors who were quite rural people. And
Right.
I think a lot of that was tinged a bit with spiritualism. It wasn't explicitly spiritualism, but it had practices that, you might associate with that. And given how popular spiritualism became, I feel that if that goes back to something, it's more likely to be spiritualism than it is to be witchcraft, if in the strict sense. But yeah, I do think that I think of witchcraft as a beast. I think it is something that erupts through people sometimes.
Oh,
And
wow.
I do actually
Yeah.
feel spiritualism was an eruption. I feel that
Right.
that ectoplasm was something buttoned down and corseted down
Mm.
that came out, in that way. And yeah, that's what got me interested in that topic, I guess.
I love that description. Are you familiar with Shannon Taggart's work at all? She's an American photographer.
No.
She's a fantastic documentary photographer, and she spent quite a few years in spiritualist churches and groups in the UK and further afield. And she has an incredible array of photographs of people undergoing mediumship and what have you. Really, really great work. It might just be kind of just fun to have a look at. Like there's some, she has some
Yeah,
great work, really great work.
curious.
Mm.
I've mainly focused on all the old ones, like
Yeah,
the original photographs,
mm.
which are mainly fake, which is interesting as well.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, but still, there is this concept of something quite chunky happening
mm.
for people with that
Yeah,
material.
yeah. And you've got all the kind of there's the wonderful kind of paraphernalia around spiritualism with the spirit
Mm.
cones, the tape, the wrapping tables, all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, they're but yeah, I think you might enjoy that photography. It's some great stuff.
Yeah, no, I'll have to
Mm,
explore that.
mm,
There's um there's a lot of enveloping of
mm.
the medium involved too, like lots of cabinets that you climbed into or
That's
or
right.
red
Yeah.
curtains that went
Mm,
around you
mm.
and yeah, all of that sort of evokes something. It's not witchcraft, but it's witchcraft adjacent, if you know what I mean. It's
Lovely, lovely. Um, there was um there was a particular part in in the fiction part of Sounds of Infinity, and I must mention it because I'll forget otherwise, and I'll be thinking about it 2 days later.
Mhm.
But you know when there's the hanging at the start,
Mhm.
and then the four riders come, and they're quite kind of macabre. Um, there's a there's a passage in a very old Irish text talking about the Lord of the Dead. It's a figure called Don Dove, and these riders present themselves to somebody, and they use, I can't remember what it is in Gaelic, but basically they say something along the lines of kind of we are alive but we are dead. Um,
Mhm.
and it really struck me that I was like, oh my God, this is very similar to the stuff Lee's talking about, in Sense of Infinity. But and what I was kind of hypothesizing is some of these motifs that have been around for millennia kind of come up again in our stories. Like their stories want to be told again. They want us to tell their stories again. And I mean, I'm certainly projecting when I'm saying that. But is that something that you think uh, influences your work? That there's stories, that there's spirits that you work with, there's forces that you work with that want their stories
Mm.
to be told.
Definitely. I mean, I feel that my rivulet fiddling boy was
Mm.
someone that had a story that wanted to be told. I feel that he is the main character of my book, but I would also go further as to say that he is not the only one.
Right.
Um, I don't know. Once again, that'd just be me theorizing because I feel like the reasons that spirits do things is probably more, bigger picture style than my
Right.
brain can even actually wrap around. If you know what I mean, like I think any of our brains can't actually fully
Yeah.
wrap around whatever it is that they're up to, but it feels like, that to me there are lots of spirits that have come forward in my fiction in particular that want their stories told,
Yeah.
but they can't be told as fact. They
Yeah.
have to be told as fiction.
Mhm.
And I think the artistry of that, like how well I can perform it in terms of write it, is what makes it acceptable if it is classed, which, I think there is some history for that, particularly in, your so-called Celtic nations. I
Mm.
feel
Mm.
definitely in Wales and Ireland, there's some examples of where, you have to be good at something to sort of warrant the support of the other folk. You have
Mm.
to show that you can fiddle particularly well, or you have to,
Yes. Yeah.
show that you've got that skill set. And I've often felt like there's a kind of weird spiritual pressure behind my writing in that way, as if I have to impress the person who wants their story told. Otherwise, I
Hmm.
might get some kind of bane put on me.
Hmm.
It actually
Hmm.
feels that important that I do a good job,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like,
It absolutely does. Yeah. It absolutely does. Yeah. And and certainly kind of I think when that does happen, when kind of you're in the flow of that, it does feel quite pressurized, like
mm,
because
mm,
you get all that stuff coming through you to be expressed, and
mm,
you're the human aperture,
mm.
and there's a certain amount of kind of pressure that comes from that can feel both. I think there's a physical toll of
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
as well as a kind of a mental emotional one as well.
Definitely. I've definitely had like big rest periods
Mm.
after writing some of the stuff that I've done.
Yeah,
And I think as I'm getting older, those rest periods are getting bigger.
yeah, yeah,
And I can feel that. I can feel the effects of time and
mhm,
also the things my body's gone through. I can kind of
yeah,
imagine that, you can't go at the same pace
yeah,
forever. But at
mm,
the same time, I don't know, I feel the quality is improving a little, even if the quantity is slowing down,
right,
which is
right,
nice feeling about getting older. It's a
mm,
feeling of achieving something.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. I, so do you find that kind of like you mentioned kind of like the quality? Do you think that's as much as well that kind of you become more honed at your craft? The
Mm.
experience you get used to it. I guess you know what you're doing really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I used to churn out a lot more material, but I realize in retrospect that not all of it was as good as what I can do now.
Mhm.
And um, as I'm passing through that fire, I'm coming out with a better skill set, and I'm a bit more of a perfectionist. Like, I go back and I edit things until they're perfect. And
Right.
I think with the Rag and Bone Man, this is something that I wrote. Well, I started writing it a long time ago, many, many years ago,
Mm.
and I edited it many times before I gave it to a publisher, but not
Yeah.
not copy edited, but as in creatively edited it
Right.
until I was happy with it.
Hmm.
And I think that's the patience of that is a big part of the increase in skill, is being able to slow down and realize that you don't have to get it written this month.
Hmm.
You can brew it for a little while. And I certainly have felt that with this book, that it is the most brewed thing that I've written.
Hmm.
It's passed through the fires quite significantly. And yeah, the quality is definitely increasing. But yeah, the quantity is diminishing at the same time. Like, I can't write at the speed that I used to.
Yeah. Were you quite a prolific writer? Like, do
Mm.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, I was, yes, but in retrospect, I find I'm going back and re-editing a lot of that stuff that I wrote. I
Mm.
wrote books and books and books. Like, I
Yeah.
had a massive pile of books that I hadn't had published, and was slowly trying to get them done. And I think with my fiction, they were coming out through a particular publisher, and that they weren't coming out as quickly as they needed to,
Hmm.
because people were losing interest. And when you've got books that are part of a series, people
Right.
need number two, they need number three, otherwise they forget about it. So I've actually got a new publisher for my Christopher Penrose books, which are the ones that are set in England, the
Yeah.
ones that I did before the Rag and Bone Man. Um, yeah, and that helps a lot. But at the same time, they're deeply edited,
Right.
like deeply.
Yeah.
So as I'm improving, I'm going back and doing that.
Um, in terms of going back over your kind of your previous writing and re-editing and reviewing, um, I've a couple of fiction books that sitting on a hard drive, or this um, dog-eared printed copies knocking around. Um, I find it, and you may not. I'm looking for tips here, really. I find it excruciating to go back over my old stuff. Um, One, because I read through it and I go, "Oh my god, that's awful," and two, sometimes I feel like I don't have anything in the well to go back to it and do that editing and do that cleaning up and do that kind of creative revisiting. Um, you sound like you do, and I'm kind of. I guess my question is, how do I do that? How do you do that? Though? How can I learn that?
That's an interesting question. I feel for me, a lot of it comes from my relationship with there's certain spirits that animate that work,
Right,
and I have to get back to them. I have to get
right,
back to whatever it was that brought that. And if I can't get back to them, I can't do it. Like, I know what you're talking about, the nothing in the well thing, because for years I felt like that with some of those Christopher books. I felt like I couldn't contact Christopher. I couldn't contact
right.
that whole story, and then blam, something just happened and that door opened again,
Mm,
and now I'm back there. But you can't force it, I don't think.
mm,
I mean, I suppose you could make, if you were inspired by a real spirit, I suppose you could make offerings to them and ask them to come and help and say that you want to bring it, up to a higher standard, etc. And but I think it depends
yeah,
what you were
yeah,
working
yeah,
with,
yeah.
really, because I think of my fictional characters as people too, like, even though they're not necessarily people in the normal sense, if you know what I
Mm,
mean, in that kind of animistic way that, my computer has a name, so to speak. My characters do present to me as an entity of some kind. Maybe they're an egregore.
yeah,
I don't, I don't fence them in like that. I just sort of allow them to be people. And I think that I have made offerings to them at times, to
mm,
come back. Um, and maybe that could be a
mhm.
pathway, would be to consider
Right,
whatever you're writing about as a person and see if you can give it something that it likes.
right, right. I like that.
It
Thank
might
you.
come back to play.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I've been looking at some kind of new ideas as well that are kind of bubbling up. Um, and again, this is I'm really interested in your viewpoint because you're very prolific in your writing, and one of the bits that that's holding me back from kind of finishing my
Mm,
kind of initial go at this is knowing what's to come, of some of the really hard aspects of writing. And I know for listeners, I kind of want to frame this correctly. I'm not complaining. I realize that I'm kind of very lucky to have the kind of good fortune that I do, but I guess it's that attrition thing. Is that for me when I make something, be it kind of film, photography, or a book, that there's something I give to that, and it's often something that I don't get back. Like
mm,
be it the energy, whatever way you want to kind of frame it, it takes something from me each time. Um, I get other things back, absolutely, but there's a certain amount of kind of, I think, energy or struggling to kind of get the language for
mm,
this, but I do find that creative process kind of cuts both ways. Like
mm,
it like there's an attrition for it. There's a certain payment that has to be made.
Mm. I would agree. I mean, in some ways, I feel like my brain tumor was something like that. Like I feel like it rearranged my brain in some way,
Right.
for sure. But not I don't know if it was a payment, but it certainly felt like a initiation or
Right.
something
Okay.
that I had to pass through
Yeah.
to get to where I am. Like it had that feeling of attrition
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you find like creativity as in its broadest sense? Like I find it a very strange thing, like in the sense of like I know I'm creative, but I don't really know where it comes from. But at the same
Mm,
time, there's like lots of people in my family who are very creative, So is is but it feels like it's part of my, I guess, my inheritance from my family, but also feels very, very part of a spiritual inheritance as well.
mm. Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a touch of the strangeness, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah, I don't fully understand why I have it. It's
Mm,
been with me most of my life. Even like down to stupid things like the fact that I used to torment my childhood friends with terrifying stories, that I would spin in the playground. I think there's always a little bit extra to people that have, creativity of this sort. There's a little something extra that's
mhm,
wanting to express itself and unravel, and it
mm,
needs space to do it. And I think you can go a little bit funny if you don't get the chance to do that.
yeah,
I don't think it's yeah, it's not good for you, that's for sure. Because
yeah.
I've lived through periods where I wasn't able to do this work, and it doesn't affect me well.
Oh, yeah, I concur with that completely.
Mm,
Yeah, it feels like if it doesn't get out and doesn't get out in the right way, it comes out in other ways that are
mm,
not beneficial. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel it in terms of like the kind of the edges of my mind start to fray, and that
Mm,
leaks into behavior and all that kind of stuff. So it definitely needs to be expressed, I guess, in that way, that kind of correct aperture.
yeah. And, I guess it makes sense. Everybody is shaped for something, aren't they?
Mm,
From the word go,
mm,
we're shaped in a particular way to produce a
mm,
particular thing. And
yeah,
I think maybe we would have been, I don't know, would we have been some kind of folk doctor or
yeah,
storyteller or
mm,
something, or healer or whatever,
yeah.
if we were living in an earlier culture. But these days, we have to find a way to make the modern world take that energy in some way, and the internet has provided one such pathway. It's it is yeah, it's quite a thing though, isn't it? Like it's a gift, but it is also a gift that has edges.
Mhm. Well, Lee,
Mm.
it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. As I said, I'm a massive fan of your writing. It's truly
Thank
wonderful,
you. Thank you so much.
and I really look forward to the Rag and Bone Man and picking up a copy. So it's out in November. That's
It
yeah,
is, yes. Um, I can put a little link in if you want.
yeah, that'd be great. And is it available for pre-order now? If people want to, kind of,
Mm.
yeah,
Yes, it is indeed. Um, Yeah, I think it's gonna hit at the beginning of November, so we've probably got
right,
about a month
right, okay.
before it will be actually shipped.
Great stuff. And you mentioned you have a Patreon. Do you want to tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. It started off just as me writing about my writing, but over time it's become this huge thing where I've got
Mm,
like I think because Patreon's functions opened up and they've now got a shop and there's all these different ways that you can use that site. I've now just got a lot of my old workshop material over
right.
there. I've got all sorts. Like I've got like distance folk doctoring, all sorts of things going on over there. Um, And yeah, like I use it for a lot of things. I sometimes put little extracts of what I'm working on in my fiction
Right.
and also topics that I'm working on in my nonfiction too. So it kind of spans everything from
Right.
creative to mildly academic sort of material. And
Mhm.
yeah, like it's a lot of fun. I actually really quite like having that site.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, thank
Mm.
you so much. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. I'm excited for your new work, and hopefully I can tempt you back onto the spirit box at some stage.
Mm.
As much as you
Yeah,
can.
I've enjoyed this chat. Yeah, it's been good.
Right,
Mm.
fantastic. Thank you. Wonderful stuff. I hope you all enjoyed that. I thought it was a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed talking to Lee. His work has been hugely inspirational to me, and I've always taken an awful lot from his books. And I know generally people who gravitate towards this show speak of his work very highly, and rightly so. I'm going to leave it there. I'm Dara Mason, and you've been listening to the Spirit Box. Take care and talk soon. Bye.